Hello and welcome back to another top 10 thingies of Final Fantasy XIV. Today we're going to be taking a look at some various launchers and transporters that can be found within many dungeons throughout Final Fantasy. What exactly I mean by that will be a little more clear once we get the video going. Some of them rather boring, but some of them also fairly bizarre in design. So let's get right into it. First up on our list, and one of my favorite dungeons I yet again found a way to enter, is the Swallow's Compass. As we approach this rather unsuspecting wind magic in various spots within the dungeon, we are pleasantly surprised by the introduction of a nimbus cloud that carries us across various valleys and mountaintops. In Journey to the West, this is known as Quinto Un, or Somersault Cloud, which is one of the Monkey King's very bizarre abilities to leap very far in one single somersault. And in various artwork, it's often depicted as Wukong traveling on a Nimbus-like cloud, which is how we ended up getting the very iconic Nimbus cloud that you see in many pop culture. Notably, to most people, probably Dragon Ball. The time we spend traveling across these is very short for how large the distance is that we cover, and you can see that in some of the various shots I'll show. I'm surprised they haven't made this into a mount. Wait, they did make it into a mount? Oh, but it's a premium only mount, sadly. Maybe in a different universe, we might have seen this be a hard dungeon mount, as crazy as an idea of that could have been. But sadly, you'll have to pay out for this one. Deep within the Skydeep Cenote, past all the various ruins, as we arrive in the electro-filled corridors, we are greeted with a new transporter. This thing has a surprising amount of detail in it for something nobody's going to stop to look at. Looking on a surface level, it almost has this vibe of a circuit board or a motherboard chip almost, but in reality it is a floating flying tile. The amount of energy surging from these is kind of terrifying when you think about it, but we don't seem that too bothered by it. I guess it would need this much energy to lift the Warrior of Light up in order to reach the next location, albeit it's a very short journey. Looking around this area is also rather strange, as it doesn't really make sense how they would have crossed these locations before this electrope technology was installed. Or maybe that was always the plan? As looking in the valleys in between, there's no sort of rubble or any destroyed bridges. It's just simply you would have had to jump across. If we look even closer at the tiles, at some of the glowing bits, there is actually a language written on the tiles. I'm not sure what language this is though. Maybe it's associated with the Mamul Ja and I missed this at some point. That being said, it kind of reminds me of the language in the temples within Final Fantasy X. Now we'll be heading over to the Clyteum to visit this large tube that seems to have been used to transport various cargo and other large objects. Looking at it from the outside, it's quite violent looking, and I assume this isn't its normal functioning power. This one is very fun to travel through, as it gives quite a nice view. Looking at this thing though, it must be a pain to maintain, having to shut off the tube every once in a while when there's a clog, or maybe there's various debris or damage within the tube, and crawling all the way through it does not seem like a place you want to work very often. On various points, and noticeably on the exit location, there are these various lights that are strewn all around, and I like to assume these are some sort of sensor, maybe, detecting what cargo is going in and out of here, or possibly they could be some sort of aether crystals that are supplying some sort of gravitational magics, maybe? It's kind of hard to say, as it doesn't really make too much sense how we're able to travel through this at such light speeds. Hopefully whoever comes here afterwards of the mess doesn't have to deal with any basic vomit cleanups while they're going about their business. Now for another fun and colorful one, and going straight back to the location where we found our railings. If you didn't watch my video on the top 10 railings, we find various balloons scattered about, and we can steal some of these to take a nice little trip across up into the mansion. Besides just how goofy this one is, my favorite part of this is probably the sounds it makes. So we'll take a little listen right here. The little poppy noise, it's just so goofy. Another one that just feels like I wish they used it in a few more spots. Wait, no. No, please no. It's another premium mount? Towards the end of the very stunning Paglth'an dungeon, we are greeted with these dragons that are waiting here to give us a nice little lift out across these gorgeous golden fields of grass, stretching as far as the eye can see up until the mountain's edges. It's sad to see that we never really got to see nomadic Amalja camps, but instead are greeted by the various destruction that was left in the wakes of the horrors the Tower unleashed. The feeling you get of traveling across this dragon as everyone charges in to close in on a tower for the final conflict is very satisfying. This would also really make for a cool mount. No, please don't say it. Oh good. This one you can get without spending real money, but it might take a little bit of time. On a side note, I really hope we get to come experience these areas in a fully realized location rather than just a passing by through a dungeon. Within the Void Ark, we get these various magic sigils that have been scattered across, connecting many platforms together, and they send you launching through. While these may seem rather mundane, the part that really stands out about these is that quite a few of them allow you to travel back and forth between them, which is very uncommon for launchers in this game to allow you to go backwards through them. But that doesn't mean you can go through all of them back, and they'll make sure to let you know. This one's just really fun to see all the people just coming through them rapidly at various time periods. And you even get to see some stragglers who were checking out the various treasure chests. Being able to travel back through these definitely caught quite a few people off when I mentioned it within the dungeon. It was very kind of all the raid bosses in the Void Ark to leave these magic sigils running for us so we could show up and kick their butts. Now, for a bit of a disorienting location, within the various halls of Smileton, the Loperites have decided that the best solution to getting around would be to make a MC Escher painting come to life, and they've definitely accomplished that here. This one is also rather terrifying to think about, as we have to go through these dark black and purple portals, which is very reminiscent of the Void. So are the Loperites sending us into the Void briefly to just simply get around in this insane stair maze? The Loperites are going to need to talk to Osha on this one, and I'm sure anyone who would have lived here probably would not have been very happy either. Either way, I think we're going to be speedrunning Ethereal Sickness at the rate if we have to go through any more of these portals. Within the Lunar Subterrane, we are greeted with these magic sigil launcher things that seem to push our soul into itself and send us flying forward. But we're not here to look at this one. Just a little farther into the dungeon, we get a really cool transporter. One where we travel through a memorial crystal into another person's memory. Definitely a way cooler way to get transported than some of the others we might be seeing. You can tell they really wanted us to focus on the memorial crystal, because if you stand around this room and take a minute to look around it, you'll notice that the room doesn't really make much sense. The architecture placement of these pillars is all sorts of weird. Even if it was meant to be sort of an entrance room, it doesn't really make sense either way as a decoration. Now, this one I'll try my best. In Ihuykatumu, we enter these mine shafts, and within them we get to find some ladders. Definitely one of the coolest transporters we'll be looking at today. A functioning ladder that our character can climb up. Though, strangely, you can't climb back down these ones. You can't even jump down if you wanted to. If you look at this from a side profile, this lines up surprisingly well for my Miqo'te, and it makes me wonder if the other races line up as well when they're doing this. Well, except for one. I'm not quite sure how a Papodo would be able to climb these. Maybe they jump from each single step to the next. I think that would be quite funny to see. Papodos out there, let me know what it looks like. If we look at the craftsmanship of these ladders as well, they seem to be very well made and secured in a way that seems almost more permanent than temporary, which seems odd for something that's in a mine shaft, a location that usually would be left after all the ore was exhausted or whatever materials they wanted from inside it. Overall, just a great little place. It really makes me wish, though, we could go up and down them just for seeing the animation over and over, even if it was just us jumping down to go back up. Now for our dishonorable mention, who has sinned today? It is Halatali Hard, which in this dungeon, in order to transport to the next area, you simply talk to the various people and they will send you to the start of the dungeon to go through another door. Rather anticlimactic, if I have to say. Though I'll let it pass because it is a hard dungeon and that's a type of content I miss quite a lot. Now for my favorite one, we are heading over to the various airships within Xelphatol. And here we are greeted by these etherical gemstones that we collect. And we insert them into these ethereal devices that light up the tailwind zip lines. These devices seem to have some sort of etherical rock inside them, presumably winds etherically charged, and there's just so much detail to put into every part of this transporter, from the tile you step on with the Xali symbol on it to even the little zipline rider where your character will grab onto it and kind of hang on and have these various Gerudo wings push you forward. Even the pillar of wind aether is very over the top with how it's presented. Almost looks like he'd throw you a lot farther than what the zipline is throwing you. If we listen a little closely, we get some very nice sounds. We'll listen to the wind itself, which almost gives a vibe of like they recorded it in an air conditioning unit or something, some sort of giant industrial fan. And then if we listen to the zipline riding noise, it has this lovely chime noises when you're riding it. Definitely a very satisfying noise. And that's just a look at some of my favorite transporters I was able to find. And there's quite a lot more. Some of them were rather mundane when I was looking around. And a common one that I saw being used was the water geyser, which you saw in the intro, that just shoots you up into the sky. And they use that in quite a few different places. Or other ones where you kind of just float along, the most notable one being within the entrance of the anti-tower. But I'm sure there's some that you would like to talk about as well, so let me know about those. I'm sure I've missed quite a few, as there's a lot of content to cover. And that will do it for another top 10 thingies of Final Fantasy XIV. Over here, another video. Over here, a video. Down here, subscribe. Thank you to my members, and thank you for watching. Bye.